2026 has been a year with a lot of attacks against Steam, against Valve, everything from multiple lawsuits going on at once, litigation brought forth against Valve, even from the New York Attorney General, as I discussed just about a week ago, to a few weeks before that, Vicky Shotbolt in the UK, who has ties to the Office of Communications, who's trying to roll out the Online Safety Act, who's also bringing forth litigation against Valve. But it doesn't end with lawsuits. We've also seen activist outlet The Guardian writing a hit piece against Steam for essentially accusing them of having too much free speech on the Steam forums and it's enabling problematic content. Yes, these are people well into adulthood actually complaining about mean words on the Steam forums. Oh my gosh, it's awful, guys. On top of all that, you may have also seen my multiple videos talking about how we're seeing a number of people, especially on Reddit and Blue Sky, demanding that Steam make it so the public player count is no longer public via SteamDB. They don't want that data. They don't want that transparency. And these online activists, these couch activists, if you will, are demanding that that information no longer be available. Those are just a few examples of what's been going on lately, though, and that takes us to this post on Blue Sky from the other day from Mike Rose, who works at No More Robots, a publishing company. And he's just full-on doomer posting here, trying to make Steam and Valve look bad, saying on Blue Sky, I try not to do ranty threads anymore, but man, this Valve GDC graph has just rubbed me unbelievably badly. Hold up. That's some odd phrasing there. Has rubbed me. It's rubbed me up unbelievably badly. Okay, dude. Continuing, he says, this was presented as a good thing, quote, more games are finding success, unquote, when actually the data has just been presented in a tricksy way to make it look like everything is fine. Make it look like everything is fine, guys. This sounds like the AAA people we've been seeing from the post-COVID boom, where a lot of these AAA companies overhired and overspent, mismanaged things, made slop games, etc., etc. We could go run down the list, but this is all to say that those are the sort of people who we often see in the games industry saying things are not fine. Actually, speaking of GDC, they had that infamous Scream event that I've cited a lot. I'm not going to play that clip this time, but you probably all know what I'm talking about. And so presumably when he says Valve GDC graph, this is a graph that was a part of a panel at GDC held by Valve, the Valve panel, right? A Steam panel. So we have this single out of context image from the entire panel that Mike is framing as a bad thing, actually, where Valve is simply showing that year over year, we're seeing increases to the amount of games on Steam earning over $100,000. Concluding by simply saying more games are finding success. But Mike's not happy with this data. He goes on to make an argument that hinges on his complaint being that the graph isn't talking about games released in 2025, but rather games overall. However, despite Mike framing that as a problem, it really isn't one. Valve never claimed that figure was only for games launched in 2025. There's nothing wrong with games from prior years being factored into the data. It's a snuck premise on Mike's part to frame that as a bad thing without further defining why he's making that claim. On top of that, we've consistently been getting news that gamers are spending less on games and are preferring to buy and or play older games, which contextually makes perfect sense with Steam's data. Even Steam Replay 2025 stated that only about 14% of total playtime went to 2025 releases, and that gamers are heavily favoring older games as mentioned. As a matter of fact, they even cited that around 40% of the total users' playtime was spent on games that are 8 years and older. This, if anything, makes Steam's data look even more impressive, as despite these spending habits, many games on Steam are still finding success year over year. Despite that, however, dozens of Blue Sky users are unquestionably just running with Mike's narrative. He would even get a response from the United Video Game Workers Union on Blue Sky, who said, the developers who made these games see zero residuals for their labor, by the way. That money is not going to the devs. The thing is, this union's claims are flawed, as the residual argument is another snuck premise approach, as they imply that Steam not having residuals is unfair treatment by Valve. Presumably, the union is basing this claim off what is standard practice in other industries, such as Hollywood and SAG-AFTRA, but this is not the norm in gaming. And Steam has a different and very beneficial approach to self-published indies, which is their standard flat revenue cut. Meanwhile, AAA devs are usually paid in salary anyway, so the union's post clearly ignores all of that context. Lastly, Mike also takes issue with the 100K figure, calling it nothing in the context of game development. But Valve isn't responsible for macroeconomics or dev costs. They're simply reporting on the data that they have. Now look, I've criticized plenty of corporations in the gaming industry, especially on the AAA side of things. However, Valve has consistently been one of the most pro-consumer platforms that we've seen in this space, and these sort of unsubstantiated claims against Valve are rather ridiculous in my opinion, and it's telling how often these sort of people and organizations don't say anything about the rampant corruption in AAA. No, instead they direct their ire at Valve and then make misleading posts trying to rile others up. Which takes us to the one person I saw in Blue Sky actually pushing back against Mike's claims, and this user seems to have even been at that GDC panel that Valve held. He says, "Did you attend the talk? How they, Valve, presented it made a little more sense than an out-of-context slide. Valve was just illustrating that the number of users on the platform has grown, and the revenue has also grown to match that." However, it doesn't seem like Mike ever responded to this one. Don't know if he saw it or if he's dodging it. Who knows? But that's going to be the end of the video. As always, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. I hope you have a lovely rest of your weekend and a great week ahead. And I'll see you in the next one.